cloudy. I'm sick of saying that shit with the cold and cloudy, but I'm not sick of saying this. We're live with Bet Rivers, and Joe Flacco is back. As my man G. Bush would say, Flaccavelli. He is back again. Joe Flacco, who for many years Browns fans hated as the quarterback of the dreaded Baltimore Ravens, the team that was stolen from our city. But in 2023, Joe Flacco came off the couch and led the Cleveland Browns to a number of wins. I can't remember now off the top of my head how many it was. I think it was 5. And led the Browns into the playoffs. I don't know what is with my camera this morning or with me, but it's like I got a shiny red dot on my nose. No, like a shiny white dot on my red nose. I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to have to get over that. Joe Flacco not only led the Browns to the playoffs, although it ended ugly in the playoffs against the Texans, but he won Comeback Player of the Year, even though he didn't play even half the season. It was an amazing story, and anybody that's a Browns fan and anybody that was here in Cleveland just 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, understands the excitement, the energy, the enthusiasm, the wildness of Joe Flacco. Since I moved to Cleveland, I've been covering the Browns since the 2011 football season. Not as long as some of you, of course, many of you. But it's a while now. And there, as you know, there have not been a lot of things to get excited about, forget since 2011, since Bernie Kosar. We all know that. There's been very little to get excited about as a Browns fan. But that run by the Browns in 2023, even though it ended ugly, was one of the most fun stretches of time for any Browns fan. We'll just say since the team returned in 99. I'm not going to say it's number one, because obviously in 2020 they won their first playoff game. In 2007, just the team coming back in 99, getting to their first playoff, for their first postseason game soon after. 2007, they didn't make the playoffs, but it was a great run with Derek Anderson, a big offensive team that was fun to watch. Obviously, I can't remember now, 2014? Yes, I think it was 2014, where the team got off to the great start with Brian Hoyer, and then Johnny Manziel fucked up the season. So there's been some exciting times, but not many. I don't have to tell you that. But the Joe Flacco run at the end of the 23 season is certainly near the top of the list, right? And now he's back. You see the numbers right in front of you there on the screen. 1 year, $4 million. Obviously, that's minimal money. When Joe Flacco was here, he seemed to have a great relationship with Kevin Stefanski. He seemed to have a great relationship with his teammates. You see there, that second part, important. I'm glad you guys put that up there. The deal includes incentives up to $13 million. So the guarantee is $4 million, but he could possibly make $13 million. And in the last season, in 2024, 12 touchdowns and 7 picks. But obviously he had, which is not terrible for a guy at this point in his career. I think we know the reality of what Joe Flacco is at this point. I would say there's a pretty good chance he's starting week 1 for the Browns. In 2023 with the Browns, I said he won 5 games. He won 4. He played 5 games in the race. He was only 5 games in the playoff game. It seems like so much more. He completed 60% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, 8 picks. The numbers, touchdowns are great. Obviously, 13 touchdowns in 5 weeks. The passing yards were through the roof. He averaged 323.2 yards per game, by far the best of his career. Now, obviously, again, it was only 5 games. But the previous high for his career in yards per game in a season was in 2015, where he averaged 279.1. So you're talking like 45 more yards almost per game. We all understand that it was flawed. The interceptions, the playoff game was terrible. The completion percentage wasn't all that good. Not that he's never been a high completion percentage guy. But Joe got us, and Joe got Cleveland. There you see the numbers, the stats in the 5 games with the Browns on the screen. Joe brought an energy, an excitement, a legitimacy to this franchise. It made, especially coming off when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, myself, and if you're honest with yourself, most of you thought it was a great trade. It turned out to be a disaster. And then all the off the field stuff that most of us are willing to, I don't know about overlook or willing to kind of put to the side if a guy plays well, that goes away. So we're all feeling crappy about the team, many of us feeling crappy about the quarterback. And then Joe Flacco comes in and just inserts this excitement and energy. And it was really hard to see it coming. He had not played well for a number of years. He'd been bouncing around since moving on from the Ravens after Lamar Jackson took over. He really hadn't played particularly well in his stints with Denver and the Jets. You know, the numbers were not particularly good. If you look from 2019 with Denver through 2022 with the Jets, he had thrown 20 touchdowns and 11 picks. The completion percentage was very poor, under 60%. The yards per game, like 200 yards per game. And it looked like, being on the couch to start the 23 season at 38 years old, he was done. But he showed you he still had life, and what he had more than anything else is that cannon of an arm that he's always had, and he still has. Joe Flacco turned 40 years old on January 16th of this year. 40. Now, I don't know how much, if anything, he's got left in the tank. I do know that this move, if nothing else, is going to have fans excited. I'm going to look at the message board here on YouTube. Let's see. What do we got so far? And we'll talk about how this affects other things in terms of the draft in a minute. 05er says Hunter. Evan 419, Flacco. Daniel says Travis Hunter, let's go. Sad times, we get hyped so easily. It is sad. In a way, it's sad. I loved what Joe did here. I had a chance to interview Joe after the 23 season. In fact, if you missed that interview I did with him a little over, about a year and change ago, I'm going to retweet it. I'll put it back out since the Browns just signed him. I'll retweet it coming up a little bit later today. It was such a pleasure. I mean, the guy couldn't be nicer. And everybody loved him. But it is a little sad that we're getting the most excited we're getting in the offseason, besides the Myles Garrett extension, is to bring back a 40-year-old quarterback. But what the hell? At least give us some excitement. If the team's going to stink, at least make them interesting. Willie Moe says Travis Hunter to Cleveland. Book it. 05er, great move, Flacco. Kyle says, I actually love the signing. By no means a Browns fan, but they definitely need a steady hand under center. Ada says, yes, Flacco is back. Big Z says, Hoyer the Destroyer. Living in the past there, Z. T-Dank, good decision, Bull. Love your insight. I'm going to get to what I do like it. I do like it. I understand why some people will not, and I'll get into that in a second. I just want to give you more reaction from some fans. Daniel, $13 million is crazy. Wonder what he has to do to earn it. Obviously, it starts with playing, most of the season. We'll see if that happens. Dale says, not a huge Flacco fan. I like the signing, though. It should really help the room. Double K Creative. Flacco will make the Browns fun again. Make the Browns fun again. Now draft Hunter and give him another amazing target. Willie says, probably take us to the playoffs. Probably take us to the playoffs. I don't know about that, but hey. Max, Adam the Bull, and Joe Flacco. Both elite. Thank you, Max. I appreciate that. I can't disagree. Michael says Flacco gives them a floor quarterback that they desperately need. I agree with that, too. 05er says, now I believe we aren't drafting a quarterback. I disagree with that. You might be saying this means they're not drafting a quarterback at 2. I don't even think that guarantees that. I already thought they were probably leaning against that in anyway. So at this point, I wasn't thinking they were going to draft a quarterback at 2. I don't think this seals it, but it's more, you can use it as evidence to think that they won't. I do not think this means if you think this means they're not going to draft a quarterback, period, I completely disagree. We'll get to that. 05er better than Winston, who's a con artist. Rock says, go, Joe. Sean, I don't think they'll draft a quarterback at all this year. Disagree. They have too many holes. No, you got to take it. You can't pass on a quarterback. You have to take a shot at a quarterback at some point. I'll be shocked if they don't draft one by 33. Some person looking at a 2-win team to a possible 10-win. Let's not get crazy. Now, you got to spoil it, some person. Joe Flacco's not getting you 8 wins. Stop it. That's just ridiculous. G. Bush's bad neck says, love you, Bull. Hunter at 2, Will at 33. Not interested in Will, but I like some other guys at 33. Cole, do you think he will start the whole year? No. And let's get to that. First of all, Joe Flacco's not playing the whole season. Joe Flacco hasn't played a full season in almost a decade. The guy's 40 years old. He's not playing 17 games. I mean, the only guy that's ever done that is Tom Brady. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but ideally, as much as I love Joe, it's not ideal if he plays 17 games. Hopefully, he starts the season, does a nice job, and whatever quarterback they draft, they get. Folks, the Browns didn't draft Joe Flacco to be the man. Like, it's not like they said, well, we were going to draft a quarterback, but we got Joe Flacco, so now we're not going to draft a quarterback. That is crazy to think that way. I think a lot of you are probably not thinking that way. You're thinking, okay, they don't like the quarterback, so that's why they're bringing in Joe. Joe's 40 years old. Again, we love him. He will probably be the starter at the beginning of the season, but the odds of him playing 17 games, I mean, again, 2017, he was 32 years old the last time he played a full season. He's now 40. You know, he's started just 37 games in the last 7 seasons. That's just over 5 starts per season for the last 7 seasons. And the last 5 seasons, he's only started 20, which is 4 starts a season. So to expect him at 40, when he hasn't made more than 6 starts since 2019 and hasn't made more than 9 since 2017, to expect him to start 17 games is probably crazy. Again, I'll say there's a chance. The Browns are not passing on a quarterback because of Joe Flacco. I still am convinced they will draft a quarterback no later than the 2nd round. And in a perfect world, Joe gives them the ability to allow that quarterback to not play until he's ready. And if they draft someone like Jalen Milroe, who is a project, obviously he has a lot of work to do, then the fact that you have Flacco and Kenny Pickett, who started a number of games in the NFL, often when teams draft a quarterback, besides the guys who are obviously going to start right away, when a team drafts a quarterback late in the 1st round, 2nd round, sometimes those guys end up starting before they're ready, because there's some sort of pressure, but often because the quarterbacks ahead of them get hurt or whatever. A young quarterback that you think could be your future, and if you draft a quarterback late in the 1st round, early in the 2nd round, you think he's going to be your quarterback. It's obviously you're not as confident as if you would have drafted him early in the 1st round, but you don't use a low 1st round pick or a high 2nd round pick on a quarterback you don't think is going to be a starter. Why would you do that? That would be crazy. So if the Browns draft a quarterback between 20 and 33, they're expecting that guy to be their quarterback of the future. But you never want to start that guy before he's ready. The reason he plays should never be because the other guys are hurt. And the fact that they have now 2 guys who have started games in the league, certainly one, Joe Flacco, who has started games for the Browns and has started 191 of his 196 games played in his career. And then even Kenny Pickett, who started a number of games in the league. If they draft Milroe or whoever it is that they draft at late 1st, early 2nd, which is just my assumption. Again, I could be wrong. It's going to give them the ability with 2 veterans and one seasoned veteran to not play that guy until he's ready. The Browns have forced too many young quarterbacks to start before their time. They will not have to do that this year because of Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. And again, I think it was smart now to get Kenny Pickett because now you have 2 quarterbacks that are, at least have a floor, right? Joe Flacco especially, unless he completely goes off the cliff this year, and I don't think that'll happen, has a pretty solid floor of play. That's he's not going to be horrible. And Kenny Pickett, again, I'm not a big Kenny Pickett guy, but he's not. You know, he's not. To me, he's not a guy you're going to ever win with regularly. But he's somewhere between the 27th and 35th best quarterback. So if you have to play him for 3-6 weeks, all right, you'll get at least some level of professional play at quarterback. And that's important if the young guy is just not ready. And again, I keep bringing up Jalen Milroe because he is the rawest of the prospects that they could draft. He might not be ready for a full year. And so having two legitimate veterans is a big deal. I do not think this changes their plans at all. Again, if you're thinking that they're like, well, now we got Flacco, so we don't have to do anything at quarterback, that's crazy. If they don't take Shedeur Sanders at 2, it's not because they signed Joe Flacco. It's because they had already decided before signing Joe Flacco that they were not going to take Shedeur Sanders at 2. I've thought for a couple of weeks now that they're going to draft Travis Hunter at 2. The more I thought about it, and again, I'm still quarterback guy, and so I still would love for them to take Shedeur Sanders and would be on board with that. But I think I've said consistently, really for months, that if you don't take a quarterback, you've got to take Travis Hunter because he is the most unique prospect coming out of college maybe ever. When the guy has elite talent at 2 different positions, that's something that's hard to pass on. And yes, I could see why the signing of Flacco would make you think that they've decided not to draft Shedeur. But again, the decision on Shedeur happened before anything was done about Joe Flacco. So now if they draft a quarterback at 33, they've got a lot of protection. A lot of protection. And yes, you asked me today, when the season starts 5 months from now, give or take, Joe Flacco will probably be quarterback 1 for the Browns. And the Browns are not winning a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. I think realistically you all know that. In my opinion, they if he's playing the majority of the season, they probably won't go to the playoffs either, most likely. I'll never say no chance. There's a little lightning in a bottle with 2022. They won in an unsustainable way. But at the very least, if the team is, will be more competitive than last year, and Joe Flacco will bring a level of interest, enthusiasm, and excitement that, again, if you're not going to win in the playoffs, it's better to have at least that than nothing. I understand there's some sentiment of, well, Joe gives him a better chance to be mediocre. Why would you do that? You want to have the top pick next year. I get that in theory. And when the season's over, yes, I want the Browns to have the highest pick possible to get the best player possible. But you can't just keep losing and sabotaging and not trying to win and not trying to put the it's just you develop too many bad habits as an organization when that happens. So I like this move. It's a little out of character, I think, for me to like this move. But we all change as the years go by. And it was exciting to have Flacco here. Again, I have no great expectations. I'm not even sure we can expect him to be as good as he was in those 5 games. Again, very turnover prone. The last 2 years, he's thrown 15 interceptions in 11 starts. I mean, that's terrible. But 25 touchdowns, that's phenomenal. And he actually was better in terms of completion percentage last year with Indianapolis, 65% as opposed to 60% in 2023. So that's where we stand. I think it's an exciting day for Browns fans, even though it seems crazy with a 40-year-old quarterback most known for being a Baltimore Raven. But that's where we're at. And, I think that's okay. All right, let me I accidentally shut off the chat. I don't know how I did that. I screwed up. So I want to bring up the chat one more time before I head out and see what you guys have to say here. All right, a lot of people watching right now, and I appreciate that. We're going to pop out the chat here. Why can't I? Let's see here. All right, I screwed up. Pop out the chat. Why can't I figure out how to pop out the chat now that we're going? All right, well, I'll just turn that down. Here we go. Let me get some some other comments from the fans. Some person, there we go, G. Bush Bad Neck. Let's see. Chantel says Flacco got comeback player of the year for a reason. Brian says take Milroe, let him sit and learn. Give him a package to use his legs and strong arm. I didn't mention that part, but Brian, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. And if you do draft Milroe, and I'm on board with that, think about if you draft Hunter and Milroe, the athletic ability of that combo down the line. Maybe you take a one of these big time running backs in the third round, man. And yes, I think if Milroe is the pick, he definitely will have a package of plays. It might be not unlike the situation we saw with Lamar Jackson. I have no expectation that Jalen Milroe is going to be anywhere close to Lamar Jackson, but you never know. I think it's an unfair comparison. Just the only reason I'm comparing it is from a perspective that Joe was quarterbacking and they would run a package for Lamar Jackson. They could do the same thing here. Eventually, Lamar Jackson took over. I don't know that would happen with Jalen Milroe in the first season. Sean says if the Browns take a quarterback in 33 and he needs to be better than Milroe, he shouldn't go until late second, early third. I don't know how you could definitively say that, Sean. Page A, how come Flacco can throw pick sixes but not Winston on this team? Because Flacco threw more touchdowns. They can't. The pick sixes, I've said now a number of times, are a problem. How many times do I have to say the interceptions are an issue? I think I said it about 6 times. Double K Creative, everyone smash the like button for Bull. Thank you, Double K Creative. And please hit the subscribe button. If nobody if you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. Got some big announcements coming up in the next couple of weeks. Kirk says, I'm excited for this. Could mean we are getting Hunter at 2. Z, didn't Milroe accept an invite to be at the first round of the draft? Do you think he's still around after the first round? I think he could be. Might have to trade up to get him. Mike Lucas, my man Mikey Lucas, says Flacco better than Cousins. He might be. Everybody was so hot. So this is the thing. So many fans wanted Cousins. I don't know that I guess if I had to bet, maybe I don't know. You know what? I think Flacco is better than Cousins right now. Cousins is a little younger, but Flacco hasn't been hurt, unlike Cousins. So, yeah, I'm with you, Mikey. Mikey McNuggets checking in. I do think Flacco's better than Cousins. And with Flacco, all I had to do was pay him money. I didn't have to give up any draft picks to get Cousins, which was stupid. Hold on. Battling a cold here the last couple of days. Let's see. Mikey McNuggets also says Cousins was so bad last year, so bad at the end of the season. Dave says, let's go Flacco. DB Dog, Hunter at 2, trade back into the first, take Shador at 10. Woo! I doubt it, but you never know. Some person, Flacco better than Lamar, Flacco better than Milroe. You're getting crazy. Mikey McNuggets says, Bull, that shirt brings out your eyes. Thank you, Mikey. I'm happy to do that for you. Brian says, David Njoku, happiest guy in Cleveland. Yeah, he did. David Njoku had his best stretch with Joe Flacco. Yeah. Page A says, I'm sick too, Bull. It's the weather, man. You know what's funny? You can make all the fat jokes you want. Somebody did earlier. Despite me being in relatively bad shape, in terms of being fat at my age, I almost never get sick. I got a great immune system. And my son gets colds all the time. He has bad allergies and he gets colds. And I never catch it. But this time I did. It's not terrible. Sorry to be wiping my nose in front of you, but better than it, dripping all over the place. Some person, no Flacco led to Lamar. Flacco leads to Milroe. Oh, leads, not better. Okay, some person. Thank you. There you go. All right, thanks, everybody, for joining me for this live podcast. I appreciate it. What's up, Preston? G. Bush Bad Neck. Roving Pursuits. Thanks to everybody that joined me live today. I love this to be able to jump in here when there's breaking news and right from my house and get on with you live. If starting next week, I'm going to be on live in addition to breaking news every Tuesday and Thursday. So Dustin and I have been doing a live show here in the Bullpen every Thursday at 9 a.m. Starting next week, I'll now be on will be live Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday will just be me live, and Thursday with Dustin. Although eventually we might get Dustin in on Tuesdays also. We'll see, at 9 a.m. So twice a week live in the bullpen starting next week. Whenever there's breaking news, obviously we'll do the live post-game. I'll have live post-game reaction for the Cavs playoffs and, of course, for all the Browns games and hopefully Guardians playoffs this year as well, now that they got back to 500. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Thanks to Z for producing. Thanks to Alex as well. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you, well, unless there's more breaking news on the weekend, I might jump in. If not, I'll see you Monday for the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian show, Tuesday for a new thing again, every Tuesday, 9 a.m., live in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Until then, I'll see you all later. Have a great day, everybody.